Welcome. Subscribe to AS Foundation, India's leading academy for CA course, and hit the bell icon to get the latest updates. Thank you.
You are trying to see after the May 18 result के what are the changes, अभी audit में क्या difference आया है, क्या change है, क्या amendments है. तो amendment lectures, so still there is some time for the amendment lectures to be coming, but yes, there is SA 299 which has been revised. So the old standard which we have, responsibility of joint auditors, now that standard has been revised, and the new name of the standard now is joint audit of financial statements. And this standard, the effective date, the date from which the standard becomes applicable is 1st April 2018. Right, so for your November 18 and onwards exam, this revised standard is applicable. Right, so this is a small video, yes, a video rather to cover SA 299. Right, so from where do I download? You say I don't have the notes. So simply go to the ICAI website. Yes, you go to the ICAI website. On the ICAI website, you go to the resources. In that, the auditing review and other standards complete text. Yes, over there you will see revised SA 299. Yes, everybody, did you notice that? Revised SA 299, joint audit of financial statements. Right, and the entire, it's just an 8-page standard, very small, or because generally the text of these standards run like into 30-40 pages also. So relatively a very small standard, and this is the, the reference from where you can get the text of the essay. And so I'll be teaching the standard right now from this particular text of the essay only. Right, so SA 299, which is regarding the joint audit of the financial statements, a revised standard applicable both at the intermediate as well as at the CA final level. Okay, right. So joint audit, as we already know, where more than one firm of auditors has been appointed to do the audit of the financial statements. Like we know that in case of Reliance, they always have the, a policy to appoint the joint auditors, where more than one auditor is going to be signing the audit report. Okay, so now in SA 299, they are basically discussing three things. So the standard has been divided under three parts. One, the audit planning, risk assessment and allocation of work in case of joint audit. The audit planning, risk assessment, because now we talk about the risk based audit approach, and the allocation of work, right, and the allocation of the work. Second, we talk about the responsibility and the coordination among the joint auditors. So the responsibility of the joint auditors and also the coordination of work amongst the joint auditors. Right, the coordination of work amongst the joint auditors. And last we talk about the reporting by the joint auditors. Right, last we talk about the reporting by the joint auditors. Okay, right, so these three parts we discuss and the standard is over. Right, so audit planning, risk assessment and allocation of work, then the responsibility, division of responsibility among the joint auditors, the coordination of work, and also the reporting by the joint auditors. Okay, so first now let me discuss with you the audit planning, risk assessment and the allocation of work. And so first thing which I am discussing with you now in SA 299 is the audit planning, risk assessment and the allocation of work. Right, what does the standard say? The engagement partner, the engagement partner and the other key members of the engagement team of each of the joint auditors, more than one firm of auditors. So let me take an example, say there are three audit firms, A and company, B and company and C and company. So it says the engagement partner, that is the partner who is going to sign the audit report, and other key members of the engagement team from each of the audit firm should be involved in the audit planning. Other key members of the engagement team from each of the joint auditors should be involved in the audit planning. Yes, they should collectively develop an audit strategy and also an audit plan for conducting the joint audit. Okay, and now it says while developing, what are the points to be considered while developing the joint audit plan? Right, so a very important question. This was not there in the old standard. So this is read, revise 10 times before the exam, R raised to 10. And the factors to be considered, or how do you develop a joint audit plan? So it says in preparation of a joint audit plan, first thing which you need to consider is the division of the audit areas. The division of the audit areas. Why? Because now see, if financial statements are one and auditor is only one, he knows that I have to do the audit of entire financial statements. But now what is the situation is in joint audit, financial statements are one, but audit करने वाले is more than one. है ना, अगर एक केक है और एक पर्सन खाने वाला है तो उसे पता है कि पूरा केक मुझे ही खाना है. पर अगर केक एक है और खाने वाले एक से ज्यादा है, से 4 लोग हैं, तो अब वो केक को कट करके डिवाइड करके खाना पड़ेगा ना. So similarly now financial statements तो एक ही है, but audit करने वाले audit firm एक से ज्यादा है. So first now what is required to be done is the division of the audit work. The division of the audit work, and also certain areas of work they may not decide to divide, and they may decide that this all of us collectively we will audit. So the common audit areas. Okay. What does the standard say? How the division of audit areas, how the division of the audit work should be done? It says the joint auditors shall by mutual discussion divide the total work of audit amongst themselves, something similar to what was said in the old standard also. Mutual discussion. The joint auditors shall by mutual discussion divide the total work of audit amongst themselves. Okay, on what basis they can divide the total audit work? Asset wise, liability wise, income wise, expense wise, plant wise, office wise, location wise, any basis which is mutually agreed upon by the joint auditors. Yes, the joint auditors can divide the work. And certain areas of work which they consider to be very important, they may decide that this we will not divide and all of us will do the audit of these areas. Right, so that is the common audit areas. So division of audit areas and the common audit areas. And on what basis will they do the division of the audit areas? It says by mutual discussion. Shareholders' role is over with the decision of having joint auditors and appointing the joint auditors. Okay, they decide we want joint auditors, more than one firm, and they say okay, these are the firms whom we want to appoint for the joint audit. Then which auditor is going to look into which area, that shareholders don't have a say. That the joint auditors will mutually agree or decide upon amongst themselves. Okay, right, so division of audit areas and also the common audit areas while developing the audit plan. That's the first important point. Second one, the reporting objectives of the engagement in order to determine the nature and timing of the communication to be made by the joint auditors. And so that also is to be considered while developing. You need to prepare for that also when you prepare an audit plan, keeping the reporting objectives in mind. Keeping the reporting objectives in mind. Then it also says factors that in the professional judgment of the joint auditors, would require significant effort. Mainly those areas which have been assessed as an RMM. Those are the factors. There is big increase in their revenue as compared to last year, or big change in the expenditure as compared to the previous year. So that is what, there is a big change, that is an RMM, risk of material misstatement. So they know okay, more of our audit procedures are to be directed in this area. And higher the assessed RMM, the higher would be the audit procedures to be performed by the auditor. ABC analysis of the financial statement audit. Right, so factors that in the auditor's professional judgment, that in the joint auditor's professional judgment are significant in directing the engagement team's effort, and where more effort will be required in the audit of a particular area. Right, then also the results of the preliminary engagement activities. The results of the preliminary engagement activities. preliminary engagement activities, if you know that, it is discussed in SA 300. And planning and audit of financial statements, and initial audit engagement, recurring audit engagement. In both cases, the engagement letter to be issued in accordance with SA 210, preliminary work before you start preparing an audit plan. Second one, whether you can comply with the ethical requirements including independence. Third one, for a recurring audit, continuance of the client relationship. For an initial audit, the acceptance of the client relationship. And then two additional points for an initial audit engagement, NOC and KOC. No objection certificate, if any, from the predecessor auditor, and knowledge of the client's business, as it is the first time that you are doing the audit of the financial statements. Right, so that you will find in SA 300. Planning and audit of financial statements. So it says the results of the preliminary engagement activity should be also taken into consideration while developing the joint audit plan. Please keep the question in mind. And what are the points to be kept in mind by the joint auditors while preparing the joint audit plan? Right, and the last point over there is the nature, timing and extent of the resources which will be required to perform the engagement. And so in our example, there are three auditors, three firms who are doing the audit. So they decide that each of the firms should put 10 CAs on the assignment. Total we require 30 CAs on the assignment. So 10 CAs from each of the firm. And we require 12 articles. So 4 articles from each of the firm. Right, so nature, timing and extent of resources required to perform the engagement. No surprise if I see a question on this one in November 18, May 19 or November 19 exams. Very much a probability. Revised standard, newly revised standard, and a new question where there was no corresponding question for the same in the older standard. Right, so you better learn these points by heart. Right, factors to be considered in developing the joint audit plan. Then it says, now once they have prepared the joint audit plan, in that they will also communicate the risks of material misstatement identified to each of the joint auditor. तो हर joint auditor ने अपने area जो वो audit करने वाले हैं उसके बारे में उन्होंने RMM assess किया होगा. But it says you need to inform each of the other joint auditor also regarding what are the risks of material misstatement identified in the audit. Then also decide upon the nature, timing and extent of the audit procedures to be performed for the common audit areas and for the specific allotted areas. Common areas and also for the specific allocated areas. And decide upon the nature, timing and extent of the audit procedures to be performed for the common audit areas and also for the specific. Decide upon. Performing those procedures is the respective joint auditor's responsibility to whom that work has been allocated. But what does it say? That you decide upon कि common audit areas का checking कैसे होगा and specific जो allotted work है ना उनका checking, allocated work है, how that checking would be done. Right. It says common engagement letter and common representation letter. No obtaining, what does it say? No obtaining 3 engagement letters and 3 representation letters, like in our example if there are 3 joint auditors. It says common engagement letter and common representation letters, common representations to be obtained from the management. So common engagement letter to be issued and common representation to be obtained from the management. And once the work has been divided and they have decided what work is to be divided and what is to be checked together. So like I take an example, A, B, C, 3 audit firms, A and company, B and company, C and company. Just to keep my example very simple, I am saying that A and company is going to do balance sheet, B and company is going to do P&L and C and company is going to do notes. So this is the division of work. And common audit area, their client whom they are auditing has entered into a joint venture during the year. So they decide that this joint venture agreement ka checking we will not divide, all of us we will check. So this is division and this is the common audit area. They've also decided upon the nature, timing and extent of the audit procedures for both of them. Then it says this division of work, what is to be divided, what is to be checked by all, is required to be documented, and they need to prepare a document called as the work allocation document. very important new term in the revised standard, work allocation document. है ना, work allocation document. And it says this work allocation document should be signed by all the joint auditors. This work allocation document should be signed by all the joint auditors, and it should also be communicated to those charged with governance, that is the TCWG of the entity. Yes, it should also be communicated to the TCWG of the entity, the work allocation document. So how the division of work has been done? By mutual discussion. Then the division of work is required to be documented. What is that piece of paper called where the work has been documented, division of work has been documented? Work allocation document. Why you need to have a work allocation document? Okay, I am going to do balance sheet, you are going to do P&L, you are going to do notes, joint venture, we all are going to check. Why this work allocation document is required? To avoid any dispute or confusion. Are you paying attention? Yes, all these words you will have to use in your answer when a question comes regarding any problem with the division of work amongst the joint auditors. So to avoid any dispute or confusion among the joint auditors, है ना, among मतलब ये आपस में ही झगड़ रहे हैं कि नहीं नहीं मैंने तो बोला ही नहीं था कि I will be doing this area, मैंने तो पहले से ही बोला था कि I will be doing that other area. So to avoid dispute or confusion among the joint auditors, or to avoid any dispute or confusion between the joint auditors and the entity, है ना, between the joint auditors and the entity. Auditor says, oh, we thought BN company is doing balance sheet, but is BN company doing balance sheet under our example? No, AN company is doing balance sheet, BN company is doing profit and loss account. So that is why we also communicated to the TCWG of the entity. So why work allocation document is to be prepared? To avoid dispute and confusion between the joint auditors and also between the joint auditors and the entity, है ना, among the joint auditors and also between the joint auditors and the client. Right, so that completes the first part of the essay, which is regarding the audit planning, risk assessment and allocation of work. है ना, the audit planning, risk assessment and the allocation of the work. Right, if you come to the text of the essay, है ना, if you come to the text of the essay, it says one, it is applicable with effect from 1st April 2018. Right, and then you will find over there the points regarding the audit planning, risk assessment and allocation of work. Right, in developing the joint audit plan, the joint auditor shall identify division of audit areas and common audit areas, ascertain the reporting objectives, right, and this refer para A1, I will just take you later on to para A1 also. Consider and communicate among all the joint auditors the factors that in their professional judgment are significant in directing the engagement team's effort, and the results of preliminary engagement activities and the nature, timing and extent of resources required. RMM to be communicated to all the joint auditors, and each of the joint auditor. They shall also discuss and document the nature, timing and extent of procedures for common and specific allotted areas. Yes, common engagement letter and common representation letter. And after identification and allocation of work among the joint auditors, the work allocation document, did you see that sentence? Did you see that term over there? What is the term that I am talking about? The work allocation document shall be signed by all the joint auditors, and the same shall also be communicated to TCWG of the entity. So there they have written refer para A2. So यहाँ पे पहले क्या था? Refer para A1 where division of audit areas and common audit areas was there. So and then over here for work allocation document they have written refer para A2. So we'll just go to A1 and A2 in the application material, and application and other explanatory material. Right, where joint auditors are appointed, they should by mutual discussion, है ना, divide the total audit, divide the audit work among themselves. Right, and then it says certain areas of work owing to their importance or owing to the nature of the work involved would often not be divided and would be covered by all the joint auditors. So that we call it as the common audit areas. And A2 paragraph, the documentation of the allocation of work helps in avoiding any dispute or confusion which may arise among the joint auditors regarding the scope of work to be carried out by them. And further, the communication of allocation of work to the entity helps in avoiding any dispute or confusion which may arise between the entity and the joint auditors. Right, so I have already told you these points. Avoid any dispute or confusion among the joint auditors and between the entity and the joint auditors. Yes, is it clear to everyone? This is a very important point over there, developing the joint audit plan, and second one, the work allocation document. Now I come to the second part of the standard, the responsibility and coordination of the joint auditors' work. Right, the responsibility, the sharing of responsibility by the joint auditors. Right, responsibility of, the sharing of responsibility by the joint auditors. Right, so one, right, for work which is divided, who is going to be responsible? Right, the respective joint auditor to whom that work has been allocated. And the respective joint auditor, to each joint auditor to whom that work has been allocated is going to be responsible. So in our example, balance sheet, who is going to be responsible? A and company, P&L, B and company, notes, C and company, the respective joint auditor. However, there are certain areas where the joint auditors are jointly and severally responsible. Right, so this is the second important question from this essay, R raised to 10, read, revise 10 times before the exam. Areas where the joint auditors are jointly and severally responsible. Right, areas where the joint auditors are jointly and severally responsible. Right, so what are the areas where the joint auditors are jointly and severally responsible? First one, you would have guessed, for work which is not divided. And so like in our example, the joint venture agreement, for that they are jointly and severally responsible for work which is not divided. Then it says deciding upon the nature, timing and extent of the audit procedures for the common audit areas. Again, they are jointly and severally responsible. And jointly and severally responsible. Matter relating to all the joint auditors brought to their attention by one of the joint auditor. And a matter relating to all the joint auditors. And you can say there is a matter regarding Schedule 3 compliance. Now this is not a matter regarding one of the auditor. It is relating to all, but it has come to the attention of one of the joint auditor. So it is the responsibility of that one of the joint auditor to communicate that matter to all the other joint auditors, and then they are jointly and severally responsible. And a matter relating to all brought to the attention by one of the joint auditors. Then whether the financial statements comply with the statute, are in compliance with the requirements of the statute. Whether the presentation and disclosure, P&D is what? Presentation and disclosure of the financial statements is in accordance with the AFRF, and the auditor's report is in accordance with the requirements of the relevant statute, the applicable standards on auditing, and the relevant pronouncements of ICAI. These are the first 6 areas where the joint auditors are jointly and severally responsible. For work which is not divided, then the nature, timing and extent of procedures for common audit areas, matter relating to all brought to the attention by one, financial statements comply with the statute, presentation and disclosure of the financial statements is in accordance with the AFRF, and the audit report is in accordance with the statutes, essays and the pronouncements. Okay. In addition to this, in our audit report we write down a sentence, to obtain according to the information and explanation given to us and to the best of our knowledge and belief. So, obtaining and evaluating information and explanations from the management. What am I telling you? Obtaining and evaluating information and explanations from the management. Again, they are jointly and severally responsible, unless it is for a specific area. Well, if say now the company has 7 plants, the company has at 7 plants, 7 different manufacturing plants, and now say these plants have been divided as 2, 3 and 2. And okay, A and company is going to do the audit of 2 plants, B and company is going to do the audit of the next 3 plants, and C and company is going to do the audit of 2 plants. So now getting information and explanations regarding those 2 manufacturing plants is the responsibility of A and company. Obtaining and evaluating information explanations from the management. So sometimes this could come under specific responsibility also, but otherwise overall it also comes under the collective responsibility. So if the work has been specifically allotted, then it comes under specific responsibility कि वो पर्टिकुलर एरिया का इंफॉर्मेशन एक्सप्लेनेशन तो आपको ही ऑब्टेन करना है, पर जो ओवरऑल होता है ना, वट एवर ओवरऑल इंफॉर्मेशन एक्सप्लेनेशंस आर टू बी ऑब्टेन, दैट इज दी, यानी कि सब मिलके दे फाइनली हैव टू ऑब्टेन दी इंफॉर्मेशन एक्सप्लेनेशंस फ्रॉम द मैनेजमेंट, दैट इज देयर कलेक्टिव रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी, है ना. सो ऑब्टेनिंग एंड इवैल्यूएटिंग informations and explanations from the management, that also comes under the specific responsibility for the work which is allocated. For the work which is allocated, it also comes under the specific responsibility, but it also comes under the collective responsibility under areas where the joint auditors are jointly and severally responsible. Right? So this is again a very, very important question from this essay. Areas where the joint auditors are jointly and severally responsible. Right. So the audit process involves obtaining and evaluating informations and explanations from the management. This responsibility is shared by all the joint auditors unless they agree upon a specific pattern of distribution of this responsibility. So in cases where specific division, zones or units are allocated to different joint auditors, it is the separate and specific responsibility of each of the joint auditor to obtain information explanation in respect of that division, zone or so, and to evaluate the information. Yes, the auditor shall have the proper coordination and rationality where required. And all the joint auditors are also responsible in respect of the appropriateness of the decisions concerning the nature, timing and extent of audit procedures to be performed, and the execution of those procedures is the individual responsibility. Deciding upon कि हर एक एरिया का चेकिंग कैसे होगा, भले ही बैलेंस शीट इज बीइंग डन बाय A and company, but B and company, C and company will also be involved in deciding the nature, timing and extent of the procedures. Execution of those procedures, A and company's responsibility. That is what they are saying. So are responsible only in respect of the appropriateness of the decisions concerning the nature, timing, extent. Proper execution of these is the individual responsibility of the joint auditor concerned. Okay, right. So that was in the explanatory part. Okay, now I come over here again, which is regarding the responsibility and coordination among the joint auditors. In respect of audit work divided amongst the joint auditors, each joint auditor shall be responsible only for the work allocated to such joint auditor. So for work which is divided, who is responsible? The respective joint auditor to whom that work has been allocated, including the proper execution of the procedures. And all joint auditors shall be jointly and severally responsible for, very important, the audit work which is not divided and amongst the joint auditors and is carried on by all the joint auditors. Decisions taken by all the joint auditors under audit planning in respect of common audit areas concerning the nature, timing and extent of the audit procedures to be performed. Matters which are brought to the notice of the joint auditors by any one of them and where there is an agreement among the joint auditors. So that is first 3. Financial statements comply with the requirements of the statute. Presentation and disclosure of financial statements is accordance with the AFRF. Audit report complies with the requirements of the statute, the essays and the other relevant pronouncements by ICAI. And I've already added one point over there which is regarding the information and explanations. Okay. Right. So areas where the joint auditors are jointly and severally responsible. Right, and now I come to the last part of the essay which is regarding the audit conclusions and the reporting. Right, the audit conclusions and the reporting. So how many joint auditors in our example? 3 joint auditors. right? So reporting by the joint auditors. Okay, now generally these joint auditors agree upon a common report to be issued. Yani ki each one of them, say in our example A, B, C, each one of them is saying qualified, qualified, qualified. All three have the same opinion. Ki this company financial statements which we have audited, we should issue a qualified opinion. So in this case, they will issue a common audit report. Generally 99% this is going to happen. They are going to agree upon a common report to be issued, and they are going to issue one common audit report. So this is the independent auditor's report, and the partners of the three firms are going to be signing this audit report. But there might be a situation, there could be a disagreement amongst the joint auditors regarding the opinion to be expressed. And three auditors and all three having a different opinion. One saying qualified, one saying adverse, one saying disclaimer, or one saying unmodified opinion. Or another example, two are saying qualified, one is saying adverse. Different possibilities. One is saying adverse, one is saying qualified, two are saying adverse. So now there is a disagreement. So the standard says that in case of a disagreement amongst the joint auditors regarding the audit opinion to be expressed, the joint auditors having a different opinion, they can issue a separate audit report. Okay, but now in our example, out of three, two are saying qualified and only one is saying adverse. So should we apply the rule of majority wins? Out of three, two are saying qualified and one is saying adverse. So should we apply the rule of majority wins? No. Even the old standard said that, and even the new says that. Separate audit report not bound by the views of, majority of the joint auditors, not bound by the views of majority of joint auditors. So the joint auditors having a different opinion may issue a separate audit report. So in my example, now A and company, B and company think it should be qualified opinion. So they will issue one report, A and company partner will sign, B and company partner proprietor will sign. And then one audit report will be issued by Mr. C, by C and company, adverse opinion, and he will sign that report. So now company's annual report, company's reporting to be, filing of report to be done with ROC, everywhere 2 reports. All 3 have different opinion, very good, 3 reports everywhere. Okay, but now in this new revised standard, there is an additional thing. It says in case of such separate audit report issued because of a disagreement in the opinion, it says an other matter paragraph in accordance with SA 706 is now required to be included in the report, yes, in which you will make a reference to the other auditor's report. Means what am I saying? Okay, this is the report issued by A and B. Yes, are you paying attention? Just concluding, finishing with the standard. This is the report of A and B, and this is the report of C. They have said qualified. This firm is saying adverse. Okay, it says in their report they should put a other matter paragraph. Okay, one of the joint auditors, C, having a different opinion, has issued a separate opinion. And this auditor who has issued the other report, even he should put another matter paragraph. Okay, the other auditors in this particular audit have issued a separate opinion for the same. So it's simple, you have to make a cross reference. So if there are 3 joint auditors and all 3 are having different opinion, so in the report of A there will be a reference to B and C, in the report of B there will be a reference to A and C, and in the report of C there will be a reference to the report of A and B. Are you understanding? So this was not there in the old standard. Other matter paragraph you have to make a reference, not there before, no? Right, so that is the new thing which has come up. Okay, so let's have a look at audit conclusions and reporting. So now very good clear terms which have been used by the standard. Common audit report, separate audit report. है ना? the joint auditors are required to issue a common audit report, obviously when they are in agreement. However, when the joint auditors are in disagreement with regard to the opinion or any matters to be covered by the audit report, they shall express their opinion in a separate audit report. A joint auditor is not bound by the views of the majority of the joint auditors regarding the opinion or matters to be covered in the audit report, and shall express opinion formed by the said joint auditor in a separate audit report in case of disagreement. Okay. In such circumstances, the audit report issued by the joint auditors shall make a reference to the separate audit report issued by the other joint auditors. Yani ki A and B will make a reference to the report of C in their report. For the separate audit report shall also make a reference to the audit report issued by the other joint auditors. Matlab C will make a reference to the report of A and B in the other matter paragraph. Such reference shall be made under the heading other matter paragraph as per SE 706, emphasis of matter paragraph and other matter paragraph in the independent auditor's report. Right, so is audit conclusions and reporting clear to everyone? Cross-referencing to the common or yes, to joint auditors having a different opinion, the joint auditors have to make a reference to each other's report. The auditor issuing a separate audit report, he should make a reference to the other joint auditor's report, and the other joint auditor should make a reference to the separate audit report issued by one of the joint auditor by way of other matter paragraph in accordance with SE 706. Okay, right. So to conclude the standard, first developing the joint audit plan, what are the factors? Yes, first question which you need to study from this essay. Second one, what are the areas where the joint auditors are jointly and severally responsible? And third one is the common audit report and the separate audit report. In case of agreement, common audit report, and in case of disagreement, separate audit report, not bound by the views of majority of joint auditors, and cross-referencing to be given to each other's report by way of the other matter paragraph in accordance with SA 706. Right, so I hope the discussion of the standard has been useful to your exam preparations. Yes, I wish you all the very best, and I also would like that you see the further videos which will be uploaded for the amendments for November 18. Right, so yes, those waiting for those lectures, and where you also wait, even I wait for those lectures to be uploaded, and you wait for those lectures to be downloaded. Right, so all the very best. Continue with the hard work, the preparation. Right, the attempt which you are writing right now, whichever it is, it should be the best attempt with the best possible preparations. Okay, fine. Thank you.